Well, hi everyone. It's been a while since 2013, I think. Um, Life has taken me some interesting places in the past 7 years. I will say that. And typically, because I was looking back at my old videos, man, was I negative. It's it's kind of amusing to me now because I'm generally a much more positive person than I used to be. But this video, pretty somber in tone because it deals with suicide awareness or suicide prevention awareness month. And I wanted to do this before September ended. Um, and this is specifically how it relates to my own life and to, in particular, the Cincinnati transgender community. So, to let you know, those who would be potentially triggered by talk of suicide, I would not watch this video, or at least wait until you are in a good headspace to do so. Take care of yourselves, please. So, anyway, for those who don't know, I was in jail for about 20 months in 2014 and 2015 for some disturbing behavior I was displaying during a manic and psychotic episode. So, my official diagnosis is bipolar disorder, not otherwise specified, with psychotic features. Now, being in jail wasn't exactly the most appropriate place for someone in my state, but that's just what it was. And I made the best of it. It wasn't all bad. I learned quite a bit about substance use and addiction because I spent the majority of my time not at the Hamilton County Justice Center, but the Talbert House Jail. Talbert House is an organization that deals heavily with both mental health and substance use and addiction. Um, there was also a corrective thinking program. So, obviously, like my issues were primarily psychiatric, but also, I'm sure everyone falls into, some critical thinking errors. And, it's stuff I can utilize for my work with other people as well. It's not just for me. Um, Also, I have post traumatic stress disorder from an incident that happened in the jail in 2005 that was also mental health related. After this most recent stay, though, what happened was almost like a type of exposure therapy, which is replication of the traumatic stimulus in a safe, controlled environment. And also, it was kind of replacing really bad experiences with more positive ones. Don't get me wrong, jail still sucks, but there were actually a lot of positive things to come out of it. For example, uh, the PTSD involving the Justice Center was alleviated to the point where years later, as a peer supporter for Lighthouse Youth Services, I could visit clients in the jail with almost no anxiety, which is really quite remarkable and very cool. Anyways, despite the benefits of jail, there were some significant losses. Friendships were lost. I lost the house I was renting, which was really cool. The job I loved, the puppy I had been fostering and planning to adopt. My car got repossessed. It was almost paid off. My storage unit with all my handmade costumes got auctioned off. Woo! But the worst losses were the lives lost in the trans community while I was in lockup. I learned about Leela Alcorn's suicide from a counselor at the Talbert House because we weren't allowed to watch the news there. And the many in the local trans community thought we had failed Leela. But most of the blame in my mind actually goes to the church and conversion therapy. That's another video. The impact of organized religion versus faith uh, on the trans community. Another time. Put a pin in that. Um, anyway, in her final goodbye, Leela said she wanted her death to mean something and that we needed to fix society. I think about this every day. Um, Often it's what gets me out of bed every day. Um, we have to keep trying. But yes, it seems completely insurmountable at times. So in late 2014, we lost 17-year-old Leela. Ugh, it. I was crying in jail, but like mostly of just anger, which is typically what happens, to me is I just get angry. Um, and then the hits keep coming because in March of 2015, my friends Casey and Skylar visited me in the jail to tell me about the recent suicide of our good friend Tegan Rowan Stryker. Tegan was in her mid 20s. She was trans, and she had more energy than my ADHD ass did at 4 years old. Um, Tegan could be a lot, but I adored her. I really did. She was wild and untamed, which I appreciate. She was smart and witty. She had so much passion, and she was a loyal friend. Um, and I heard through the grapevine, as it were, that people had blamed a local trans community leader for her death. I won't elaborate on that point. I'll just say that that view is inaccurate and really unfair. Tegan was severely mentally ill when she ended her life, not even based in Cincinnati, where trans resources would have aided her, and beyond anyone's ability to help. Certainly, anyone that was in her life at that point. My friends blame themselves still, and you know what? I do. I blame myself a bit, but that's not really guilt. That's ours to assume. Sorry, pages are stuck together. Um, Tegan had a newly diagnosed physical disability, and her independence was obliterated by it. Tegan was someone who would walk 20 miles a day. She didn't drive, like I used to not. And, I would walk 10 to 15 miles a day. Tegan could outstrip me. Um, and Tegan was having a hard time accessing adequate health care, like so many of our people. She lost her job, which she loved. Also, after physical health deteriorates, mental health tends to go the same way. We all wish we could have done more for Tegan. But the reality is, Tegan was the type of person who was going to do what she was going to do. And while her tenacity and stubbornness were some of the qualities I most appreciated about her, it made intervention all but impossible. Um, but I do love you, Tegan, and I think about you a lot. Um, it's hard. And with the mention of stubbornness, we'll get to my own suicide attempts in 2016. So, after my long stint in jail, I got out to find the person that I had scared the shit out of to get in there, had left Cincinnati, which wasn't just a loss for my overly obsessed self. Um, as I've mentioned, I was homeless, but my brother let me sleep on his couch. I was trying to hold down a job, but the depression was creeping in. Now, in my experiences with bipolar disorder, what goes up inevitably comes down. So, with all three of the manic episodes I've had, after the mania ends, things fall to the other pole. Typically, the duration and severity of the depression is proportionate to the duration and severity of the preceding manic episode. The 2014 manic episode lasted almost a year, with the severe effects, some lingering effects even longer, some mixed episode stuff. There were additional factors in play, though. I was unable to get my testosterone in the jail, and I'd already had my ovaries removed, so I had no sex hormones, which is not good when you're only 30. It's not good for anyone, but particularly if you already have mental health issues and you're only 30. Um, my family childhood dog had just died right before my 2016 attempts. So there were two, both swallowing pills, antipsychotics to be specific. I did my homework, and most people, what I took would have been 3 times a fatal dosage. Sorry, throat's dry. However, I can build up an incredible tolerance to antipsychotics. The psychiatrists have really seen nothing like it, which is very frustrating to anyone involved with my legal mess due to the mania. Um, but in this case, it saved my life. Um, it was touch and go with the second attempt, though. I was on a ventilator for 3 days. I had MRSA pneumonia. I had a pulmonary embolism. I had QT prolongation in my heart. I had fluid built up on the bottom of my foot that caused all the skin to have to be excised. I was in kidney failure. Um, and somehow I made a complete recovery. Uh, they did multiple EKGs, which sucks. If you're trans and you haven't had top surgery, especially when all the technicians are male. Not fun, but I did it to myself. Um, yeah, so all the EKGs were normal. Just days later, I don't know. So after I was released from the psych hospital, after being transferred there from the regular hospital, I did an intensive outpatient program at Good Sam Hospital, Good Samaritan, which used like CBT, occupational therapy, art therapy, medication, one-on-one therapy, and it worked. It got me to a point where I could at least use the tools already in my toolbox to pull myself out of depression the rest of the way. Um, so I'm still here, and I'm grateful for it. I still feel really bad about putting the people who love me through that. But I'm someone who's always very hard on themselves too. Um, which I'm working on. One of my good friends, said, "You're one of the kindest people I know. Why can't you be that kind with yourself?" And yeah, it's tall order, but we're getting there. Um, and back to suicide. While I was in Talbot House Jail, there was a counselor who agreed with an inmate in a group therapy session who said suicide is selfish. Um, and it wasn't mean, but I kind of gave him some shit about that. And that was before we lost Leela and Tegan. Um, it if you feel that way, that suicide is selfish. I would ask of you that you try to empathize with those with severe mental illness, particularly those of us who are trans and living with severe mental illness and trauma. Um, you're not living our lives. You are not having our exact experience. I think there needs to be less judging and more compassion. If we lose this fight, it is not our fault. Society is literally killing us. Trauma is literally killing us. Which gets me to another friend who is currently trying to save her own life, and I'm doing my best to help her. Um, she came to the Cincinnati trans community in the fall of 2013, before all this, calamity with my legal situation happened. She had endured so much trauma that the things she discussed openly and candidly about her experiences really scared people. But because of my own history of severe trauma, the things she told me didn't frighten me. My demons appreciated her demons, if you want to view it that way. I've been scared for her, but not of her. Um, and she was in and out of jail around the same time I was, also for mental health related charges. Um, and about a year after mine, she had a severe suicide attempt that also seemed unlikely that she would pull through, and she did. Um, but not without severe enduring injury, unfortunately. Um, I was kind of in a funk when COVID started, just due to the loss of life and the callousness and apathy of our, leadership and government. But, I snapped out of it when, she was just about at her lowest and, you know, thinking of ending it. Um, and I'm grateful to her because, like, focusing on helping someone else, got me out of that place and in a place where I can help more people. So I'm helping her with getting her transition surgeries done because we both think it has the potential to save her life. Um, Dysphoria is completely disabling for some people. And while my own experiences um were not exactly the same, uh dysphoria has definitely had an impact on my mental health. People who aren't trans think these surgeries sometimes are elective, and I'm here to tell you they're really not. So we're out here in a pandemic taking all the precautions we can because this is necessary. And if you don't believe that, I don't know what to tell you. Um, we're just not going to see eye to eye on that. Um, but if you're not trans, I don't really care about your opinion on that. I really don't. And I'm really sick of losing friends, so I'm all in. I organized for a local trans support group, and community is helping us get by. I am not perfect. I misspeak, and sometimes people feel unheard. And sometimes my reputation and history precede me, even though I try to get out in front of it and I'm open and honest about what I've done. But if we're looking for perfect leaders, our liberation's never going to come. honestly. And there are many passionate, skilled, and knowledgeable trans leaders in Cincinnati. And I'm learning all I can from school, from my experiences, from others, to be the best leader I can be. And if we have infighting and acrimony and misgivings about working with certain people who we don't like, what hope do we have of defeating the people who want us to suffer and, in some cases, literally want us dead? You know, we've got a lot to do. I'm sick of suicides in our community and murders, but that's a Trans Day of Remembrance video I'll make. Um, I believe my own life was not spared for my benefit. Um, I'm here to help others, and it's really not about me. Um, which I tell myself every day. I am here. I am still here. And I'm not backing down. I will fight. To my trans siblings, I see you. Please stay. Our stories are not over. Thanks for listening.